Well, temperatures are finally warming up in St. Louis, but hopefully that doesn't lead to the summer melt. That's how educators describe the gap between high school graduation and the beginning of college, when many students already enrolled at a university don't make it to campus and never get that college degree they were on track for. But why? Tonight, the effort to put a freeze on the summer melt. So stay tuned.
So we're going to do the show.
Stay Tuned brings together local experts, journalists, civic leaders, and regular people to have tough conversations for a stronger St. Louis. Add your voice to our conversation, and you're at the table as we stay on top of current events and go deeper, bringing more light and less heat to the issues that matter. From the 9 network of public media in Grand Center, this is Stay Tuned. Some experts believe that somewhere between 10 and 40% of students nationwide experience this summer melt, with significantly higher rates occurring among low-income and first-generation college students. On Twitter, Melissa James said that she wanted to quit every time she couldn't afford books. She persevered, but that isn't the case for a lot of young people. Obstacles like fees and transportation, or simply not correctly filling out forms, could be the difference between a college degree and never stepping foot on campus. So how can we break down these barriers and make sure those who have already worked so hard to get the chance to go to college actually do? Well, this is a topic we've heard from you a lot on this week on social media. We want to continue to hear from you throughout the show tonight. Find us with hashtag StayTunedSTL, and we'll continue that conversation with you throughout the show. But right now we want to talk to Laura Winter, the project director for St. Louis Graduates.
Hi, Casey. Thanks for inviting us.
Well, thanks for being here. This is an important topic that I think maybe a lot of people aren't even aware of. What is summer melt? Define the melt for us.
Yeah. Well, thanks for asking. So summer melt typically applies to the transition between high school and college, when college intending students who may have everything in place and seemingly on the path towards enrolling in college in the fall, somehow things fall apart over the summer months and they don't actually matriculate and end up in college in the fall. And it's estimated to affect about 10 to 40% of students across the country, which is, if you think about it, 40% of students not actually completing their plans to go to college is a travesty. Yeah. So we should be doing something about that, and in St. Louis, fortunately, we are. We're thinking about it as a community problem, as something that we all have a role in solving. And that's why we created something with St. Louis Graduates called the High School to College Center, which we'll talk about tonight. Yeah,
before we get into that, I mean, I wonder, is it tempting to think, well, we made it. My child, my pupil graduated, they are enrolled, mission accomplished.
Right.
Is that a dangerous way of thinking?
I think it's a piece of that, but it's also a sense of, you know, students, we do a really good job in education of getting students through to high school graduation in terms of we know what the steps are. You move from elementary school to middle school to high school. It's a kind of a defined path. And when you graduate high school and head on to whatever's next, whatever education steps you're next going to take, or employment jobs steps, it's a less clearly defined pathway. And it's the one time in our lives when we're suddenly without the support system that is known to us. And so where do you go when the questions come up and you're trying something new? And this particularly happens for students who are first in their family to go to college or to think about post-secondary education, and they don't know where else to turn. And they're not quite, you know, familiar with the college campus yet, and they can't really go back to the high school, which is now closed. And they're in this kind of squishy space of where do I turn for help?
So it can be intimidating for even a person who has a network around them. I know, I can remember.
Exactly. Every single one of us who's worked on addressing summer melt or helping students transition from high school to college has said the same thing, which is, I needed this kind of help when I was making the transition. So if you're the first in your family to consider college, you really need some extra help because it's a daunting process.
How important is that first summer after high school? Because I know I can remember friends saying, well, I'll go in the spring semester. It didn't quite work out in the fall, and then maybe they never do.
Right.
Is it important to work on this melt the first chance you get?
It's important to make sure that students are getting the help they need for whatever's best for that student. And so you can't say it's a cookie cutter approach, one size fits all. And I want to be clear too, we say summer melt talking about students who have a college plan in place and helping them stay on that path. But as we've experienced, many students actually don't even have a post-secondary plan in place when they graduate high school. And they're still needing help figuring out what their career skills might be, what their education path might be. And so we need to make sure we've got the full range of support that's available to them.
We're going to talk about all of that tonight, as you alluded to, and we're looking forward to it. First, though, let's hear from some students facing these very issues that we're talking about tonight. Our Maya Northfleet sat down with 3 young people.
Are all of y'all the first in your families to go to college?
I technically am. Like, my mom and dad are successful without really going to college, but there wasn't really like, oh, you have to go to college. Like, you have to do this and you have to do that. I really wanted to go.
My parents, unfortunately, did not go to college or high school, so all the pressure was on me to set an example. And at the high school mindset, it's like, oh, okay, my mom and dad take care of it. But then when you transition to college, it's like, oh, it's up to me. And it's fairly difficult to change in like 1 year.
My mom and I sat down and had long conversations my senior year, like, here's what I know, here's what I don't know, and this is all you. You take care of this. Is this kind of like what you all went through with your parents when it came time to really start thinking about college after high school?
I looked to my mom for help, but she was basically like, Jen, like, ultimately this is your decision. Like, this is what you're deciding to do. You want to take loans out? You want to go to a state school? That's you, Jen.
What was that random miscellaneous thing in the process of getting to college that almost caught you up?
I would say when I would submit applications for scholarships and I didn't receive any letters back. That really discouraged me a lot.
Not having a car almost made me not go to school.
That's real.
Not having money almost made me not go to school.
Not having a car is stopping people from going to school. So what would you say to those folks who do end up not going?
I would say if you feel like it's not going to work, if you absolutely feel like it's not going to work right now, give yourself time to wait, save up. It's not like, oh, you're getting out of high school now, you have to go straight into college. If you have to wait, I mean, by all means, don't feel like it's the end of the world.
Laura, that was what you were talking about right there. It's not cookie cutter for everyone. Let me introduce everyone else who is at the table. And let me say again, thanks to Maya Northfleet for that piece right there. Okay, so Laura is still at the table with us. Daisha Tankin-Smith, college student, UMSL. A little bit more of a connection to our conversation tonight. We'll get into that for just 1 second. Keisha Mabry, Director of Innovation at College Bound, and Shauna Cunningham, Manager, High School to College Center. Shauna, I'll start with you. We heard transportation was in that conversation we just had. What are the challenges that create this summer melt?
So some of the challenges are financial aid. The financial plan's not coming together. Another big challenge is not having all the paperwork completed in order to enroll in the college of their choice. And oftentimes students don't know about the financial aid package and how that will look until they get into the summer months. I'm also a high school counselor, and right now many of my students haven't received their financial aid packages.
That information is not ready for them
That's right.
to access.
Right.
So the summer comes and they don't have the network as we discussed.
That's right. So it's always our hope that they have maybe a plan B, a plan C, a plan D. But some students don't, and as Laura alluded to, some students don't have a solid post-secondary plan. And it's summertime, all of a sudden they realize maybe their friends are going off to college, or the college that was their dream school. It's just not going to work out for them financially. So they often will come to us and say, what can you do to help?
What can you do to help?
So there's a lot of things. It depends. Every single situation is different. The majority of students that come in talk about financial aid and what can be done, and is the school that they're looking at, is it affordable? Another thing, sometimes students come in and they have not applied anywhere. So we've been really fortunate to have higher ed, representatives from higher ed come in and work with the students and say, you know what, it's not too late to apply to school. And we engage in those conversations. We're all experienced counselors in the center, and we engage and say, what is it that you want? What do you want to do next, and how can we help you get there?
And am I right that I've read that the counselors can make a very measurable, a very significant difference with not that much time invested.
That's right. Just, a few hours over the summer, I think it's 3 to 5, is that right? Just having that additional attention can make a huge difference whether or not a student enrolls in college or not. Sometimes the things that they need to just finalize are very simple, and with some time invested and some guidance, they can get that done.
Keisha, there's an app for that, it sounds like.
There's an app for everything.
Tell us, okay, do I have it right? Is it Bridget? Tell me what College Bound is doing with this app.
Most definitely. It's Bridget to College, but we call it Bridget. Basically, Bridget was developed in 2013 with the help of the Michael and Susan Dell Foundation. So College Bound was trying to figure out a better way to help more kids with this transition to mitigate summer melt. And so basically, Bridget was born. And we took a lot of interventions that are already out in the field. A lot of those interventions center around helping counselors help students, so building out dashboards so that counselors can get a really quick idea of where students are in the college enrollment process. We also built in some checklists, some resource guides, and also text messaging. So when you think about text, we send about 6 billion texts every day in the U.S.
I do personally, yes.
Right, exactly. I'm sure all of us have received a text during this show, right? And so when you think about text is really important in helping mitigate summer melt because text has a 98% open rate versus a 20% open rate for email. And not to mention, a lot of students don't even have to have data plans to text. They just have to have access to Wi-Fi, and they can receive those texts, respond, and get help with their college transition.
We saw some of Bridget on the screen there. That might seem intimidating to some folks, but for the people we're talking about, is that a place where they feel even more comfortable interacting and asking for help?
Most definitely, because how it works in the center, a student just comes in off the street. As soon as they come in, they're greeted by a near peer, and then from there, they get a Bridget account. And so it's really simple from there. They sit down at a computer, they complete a 10-minute college enrollment survey, and so that survey gives the counselors a really quick snapshot of where the students are in the enrollment process. And that's how students are easily able to get counseling, because really quickly, without knowing any background information on that student, the counselor, whether it's high school or higher ed, at the center that day, can instantly look at the student's Bridget account and see where they are to see what helps they need and help them from there.
What is a near peer? Daisha, she put you on the spot there.
Well, a near peer is someone who is closer to the high school graduate's age and someone that they might be able to relate to a bit more. Shauna
and I, Keisha and I are nice, but we can't relate to us as easily.
I'm kind of near. I'm kind of no. Not anymore.
I'm rethinking our guest list here. I don't know. Continue. I'm sorry.
It's fine. So basically, I graduated in May 2013. So just to know someone was once in their shoes, and it's much more relatable and approachable if you see someone who done what you're doing and that can tell a story like, yes, there is light at the end of the tunnel and that you will survive it. Then it's more of a I can do it too type of.
Who told you there was light at the end of the tunnel? Was there,
Laura, Shauna, Keisha,
so
everybody.
You walked into the center yourself.
I did. The summer of 2013, I was lost. I didn't know if I would be able to go to college. Originally, I was attending Spelman College in Atlanta, Georgia, and that didn't go through, so I had to rethink. My guidance counselor, Shannon Julian, she invited me to the center, and I met Laura, and that was all she wrote. So.
Before you found the center, was that stressful?
It was. I was in this illusion that, I'll get to college and it wouldn't be hard, and it didn't have this tedious process, which I now know that it did. And I'm just grateful that I came in contact with the center, because some people don't know that there are resources here, and it can make a difference. It can be detrimental or it can be beneficial.
It's a sentiment we have heard actually throughout the week. Let's go to something we heard from Shine Big, our multimedia feedback survey that we use to talk to people via social media. So this is Jalen. Let's hear what she has to say.
College has always been the end goal of my academic career. Both of my parents are educators, so college has always been the only option for me. But even with my parents' backgrounds, it was still very difficult to maneuver a lot of the forms to finally enroll in college or to even get financial aid. For me, FAFSA was a nightmare to fill out. But education should be accessible for everyone, and receiving financial aid is a huge part of it. The way a lot of programs are set up now prevents many from receiving financial help, which stops them from getting their degree in the long run.
Laura, I was hesitant to say this because I didn't want to make my mom and my dad look bad, but they both went to. My mom was a teacher. She said hers were educators, and I remember the overwhelming and that stressful summer. What is this a common thing that you hear?
It's a complicated process, and you know, Jalen's right. It's, you know, the FAFSA is tough to figure out, and it's just a hard process to go through. So that's why it's really great that the St. Louis community came together and created the High School to College Center as a one-stop shop for students who have questions, where they can come and get help on complicated financial aid matters from really talented advisors from the Scholarship Foundation of St. Louis, meet with talented counselors like Shauna, meet other students like Deja, use the Bridget program, which we can text message them reminders about, oh, by the way, you know, have you gotten health insurance? If you're planning to live in a dorm, you're going to need that. Other things that they may not be thinking about, they may not be on their radar screen, just because there's so much to deal with the transition, and making sure you don't fall through the cracks.
Has it changed over the year? I mean, is it different than when I was in school, when our older viewers or younger viewers even? Is this process changing dramatically?
There's about 60 tasks students have to do now with college enrollment. So
60?
About 60. So there's way more. So typically, years ago, I'm not going to date myself, but years ago when I went, a lot of the tasks that students have to do now were actually handled by the high school. But now with counselors being stretched thin and having really huge caseloads, all those tasks are now the responsibilities of the students. And so because of that, the number of tasks that students have to complete from acceptance to attendance has increased drastically.
Deja, I'll go back to you. So when people come into the center, what are their stories still similar to what you were experiencing?
Exactly, yes. So people will be stressed out, and I'm actually there to greet them and to let them know, hey, I was in your shoes once, and kind of get to know them a bit. I can't know everybody's story word for word or the exact details, but to kind of get an understanding that, hey, I'm Deja, I was once a graduate, and I was once lost, and I overcame. So it's like a bonding experience to a certain degree. An understanding and a beneficial journey.
A person's ambitious and they have had the talents and all the things that have to come together, the good fortune to be accepted into college in the first place. Is it hard to ask for help that summer?
Yes, because people want to believe that they got it all together, and when it doesn't seem so, it makes you feel bad. I know I felt horrible. I was an honors student. I just knew I was going to Spelman, and I had a lot of family members who were rooting for me. So it definitely takes a huge chunk of your pride to say, hey, I need help, but that is okay. And that is why we're here, and we're going to tell everyone out there that if you need help, just, you know, come.
We always say at the center that the hardest part of the journey for the next step should be crossing the threshold into the door of the center, that we should try to make everything else after that much easier.
Let's look at our Twitter poll from this week. So we asked people, what was the biggest hurdle for you when transitioning from high school to college? Hashtag AmGradSTL, got to put that in there. 52% financial aid. And again, does that go back to how things have changed in terms of, we talked about 60 things that people have to do. I'm guessing financial aid has changed as well.
Financial aid has changed, and so a lot of times what I'll find is students will fill out the FAFSA, and they think that that's done.
That's the federal form.
Yes, yes, federal application for financial aid. And they fill that out, they submit it, they think things are taken care of. They don't realize that that does not cover the cost of attendance. Oftentimes what I see is more and more schools are communicating with students via email, electronically, and there are things that students need to do maybe to complete their financial aid process, and they're not following up on that step because they don't know to do that. They think they've completed the FAFSA and that's it. And so that financial aid and not taking all those necessary steps is a huge obstacle.
So let's take a slight step back in grade level maybe for just 1 second, because whether you're graduating high school or maybe just elementary school, it can be tough to find things to do in the summer that could help you in your education or prevent some loss over the summer. We want to show you something called another app, something called Blueprint for Summer. Let's take a look.
Blueprint for Summer STL is a free and easy-to-use web app for searching for summer programs for kids 3 to 18 in the greater St. Louis area. There are thousands of activities across the St. Louis area for kids of all ages during the summertime. As a parent, it can be exhausting and stressful to search through the myriad of summer opportunities that's available for kids of all ages and to find the perfect one. We have 4,000 opportunities listed on Blueprint for Summer. You can use it sitting on the couch at home, you can use it at your computer during your lunch break at work, and it really helps to narrow down the field by isolating things that fit criteria that's important to you. As a parent, we know that it's important for you to find something within your budget that's close to your home or work, that's for a child that's your age. Maybe you need before or after care or scholarships, or your child has special needs. All of those things are searchable on Blueprint for Summer. Blueprint for Summer STL is so easy to use. I thought I would walk you through a couple of quick ways that a parent might search for some summer programming. So this is our main search screen. You can search by category. So maybe I'm going to search for a STEM and an academic camp because I know I have a son who's 11 that really loves STEM programming. So it's important to me that it offers before and after care because maybe I'm a working parent and maybe I'd like to know if there's scholarships that are available. I'm going to search by just some wide parameters to start. So I'm just going to put in a zip code 63108 and the age of my child. So I have the age, the location, before and after care, scholarships, and the category. I press search, and I see that there's 175 things that fall within all of those criteria that are important to me. Obviously, I might not enroll my child in 175 STEM programs this summer, so I want to narrow it down a little bit more. Maybe I know I think my son might be interested in going to the robotics camp at SLU. So I can click on it. It's less than 2 miles away from the center of my zip code. I can find out a little bit more about the program. So Blueprint, we recommend that you start with sort of the widest criteria. So if you only know that a couple of things are important to you, the age of your child, and maybe the interest category. Maybe you know that your son or daughter has an interest in arts. You can start with just simply an arts program or maybe a cooking program in the age of your child. So maybe I'll start with a 9-year-old. And I just want to start from there. I can see that there's 216 cooking programs for a 9-year-old. Over here on the right-hand side, I can filter by the earliest start date or the latest start date, the closest thing to the end of the summer, or maybe the lowest cost or the closest thing to my home zip code. And so there's ways for you to quickly narrow down the search. It's super easy to use on a phone, on a tablet, or on a computer. No download needed. Just go to blueprint4summer.com.
So I just want to reiterate, while it can affect a lot of people, whom does it affect the most?
So when we hear that up to 40% of students can experience summer melt and go off track with their college plans over the course of the summer, that really predominantly affects students who are first generation, first in their family to consider going to college, or who are from under-resourced or low-income school districts, and maybe they don't have a dedicated college counselor, or their counselors in schools are just overtaxed and only have so much time to spend with students on it. So, but there are things that we can start doing both at the center and in schools to better set off students. And I know there's something we're piloting this summer that Shauna maybe could touch on in St. Louis Public.
Sure. So one of the things that we're going to utilize when we do our exit surveys to keep track of where students are and to make sure that they don't melt over the summer is they used to do an exit survey. This year we're going to use the Bridget system where we have that available to us electronically. They will answer those 40 or 60 questions, and we can easily keep in touch with them. We can send them a text and say, hey, come and visit us at the center. Have you completed your orientation paperwork? We can, knowing them in the schools as counselors, we can reach out to our individual students. We can also then take that data and say, oh, we have this many students going to Mizzou. Let's reach out to all the students going to Mizzou and let them know that the representative will be here. So we're, keeping in touch.
And a lot of this work is being duplicated around the country. Is that right?
So we created a model at the High School to College Center that brings in the 3 things that research says work for helping students make the transition. It's 2 to 3 hours of counseling over the summer, text message reminders and nudges, somebody who looks like me who's going to say it's going to be okay here and we're going to help you, and oh, by the way, I'm going to pester you just to make sure you stay on track, and bring it all together in one place. And because we figured out this we're still trying to figure it out. Kansas City adopted the model and has been doing it for 3 summers, and then this summer, Louisville and Birmingham are both going to replicate the high school to college center model as well. So it's iterative work. You know, we can share with them what we've learned. We hope that in turn they're going to learn something and feed it back into St. Louis so we can strengthen the system for students.
I'm guessing all of you at the table would say, even if I don't know someone who this is affecting directly, it affects me on a larger societal issue.
Most definitely.
Absolutely.
We know that 60% of jobs require some education beyond high school. And our big goal is that 60% of adults will have some post-secondary credential or degree. Right now, only 43% of adults in the St. Louis region have a post-secondary education, and only 26% of African Americans. We have lots of room for improvement.
Daisha, if you could say something to someone who might catch you on the internet saying it, what would you tell them about, how would you encourage them to make it through what could potentially be a stressful summer coming up between high school and college?
That it is possible. We all been there. We've all gone through the anxiety and the suspense of wanting to know, will we go to college? And I think it's so important to get an education that we should invest time in the summer. I mean, it's 2 months. And it seems like if we can have, 2 months full of fun and activities and hanging out with our friends, then we can do something that could benefit our future. And as Laura said, we definitely can afford to improve. And it's just so important. And we are the youth, which means that we are the future.
I think that's a good place to leave it. Laura Winter, Daisha Tankin-Smith, Keisha Mabry, and Shauna Cunningham, thank you all for your time. Thanks for watching. Until next time, stay tuned.